Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast.
Welcome to the Ruling Class Podcast. I am your host, Didi. And today, man, I'm going to be sitting down with somebody. When I tell you this is a person that I have been watching from afar, this is truly what I mean. Because I see, like, a lot of people, like, nowadays, like, especially on social media, a lot of us are creative in our own ways. You know, whether that be painting, whether that be, sports, whether that be, photography, whether that be, however we want to express ourselves, we find very creative ways, especially our people. We find very creative ways to express ourselves. And there's a guy, man, I swear to you, like, I don't say things just for the hype of the moment. When I say I stroll down my TL, and it never fails. I don't just comment on anybody's picture. But every single time it's like, before I even see who posted it, which, obviously on Instagram, their name shows before you see the picture. A lot of times you would notice the post first, but the name technically shows first. A lot of times, man, I see this guy's work, and it's always the lighting, the colors, like everything just pops. Everything seems to be so perfect, so creative, so artistic. And I'm like, it literally, he stands out from the next person. And the guy I'm sitting down with is a guy that goes by the name of, I've been calling him, this is my first time meeting him today, but I've been calling him 501PlusCori because that's his Instagram title. But he goes by the name of Corey, and he's on the podcast today, man. I want to say thank you so much for being on the podcast, bro.
Man, I appreciate you for having me. I'm a big fan of yours. That was pretty good. I need you to, like, put all that on my website.
Facts. Yeah, for sure, man. So I've been watching your work for a while. You have shot many people that I know. You have shot many other people that I don't know. But man, I really can't say enough, bro. Like everything this dude do, I promise y'all. Like, and I'm gonna include some of his stuff. If he gives me permission, some of his stuff within the podcast. Oh my gosh, like this dude is extremely talented. So today, man, we're just gonna talk a little bit about photography. How he got into it. And we're gonna branch off and talk about, just having a creative mind and kind of digress from there. So Corey, if you don't mind, man, just tell me tell the people, tell the listener, tell the viewers, where you're from, and how you got into photography, man.
Cool. So originally I'm from California, a town called San Bernardino. Lived out there probably until 10 maybe. And then I moved to a town in California called Victorville. Stayed out there for about 2 or 3 years. And then we moved to Mississippi, Tennessee, kind of like the borderline of it. It's a town called Cairville. Stayed out there for about a year. Well, no, not even a year. I think it was 2 months. Went back to California. Then after that, we came and moved to Arkansas. And by that time, I was in middle school.
Okay.
So went to middle school out here, finished high school, and in college, my sophomore year, that's kind of when I picked up photography.
Okay, so did it come natural? Was it somebody you saw that inspired you? Was it because you were bored? What kind of led to you doing photography?
So after my freshman year of college, I kind of went through depression. So the beginning, I think the fall semester of my sophomore year, I just needed an outlet. So my barber, he kind of noticed I was going through something. So he advised me to just pick up photography. So he sold me his camera. And when I first got it, it was kind of I might use it, might not. But once I started playing around with it, I was like, oh, it's kind of cool. And I started using some of my friends, Brittany, Cabria, just they weren't even inspiring models, but I kind of turned them into models. Hey, let's go shoot this, let's go do this, go do that. And then once I started getting better, it was oh, okay, I like this. So I wanted to keep going, and I could be kind of competitive. So I kind of treated it like a sport at first. It was I gotta get better. I'm on YouTube watching videos. I'm trying to find new locations. It just became a journey.
So what year is this?
This was 2013, 2014. That's kind of when I started.
So 2013, 2014, you get into photography. What led to you getting into photography was depression. And bro, you say your barber actually noticed this. Was this because you weren't speaking or what?
No, you know what's kind of crazy? Like, we didn't have the closest relationship, but he would always ask me, like, what do you got going on? And it was always the same thing. Work, school. He was like, man, you don't do anything else? And I'm like, no, I really don't. Like, because I played basketball a lot growing up, but but after a while, like, that kind of, like, faded off, too. Like, I literally would go to class, go back to my room, watch TV, and then, like, I worked at Burger King, so I worked on the weekends. You know, in college, you're supposed to go out on the weekends, right?
Right.
But it was like, that just wasn't me. So after doing the same thing for so long, you just kind of start feeling alone in a sense. And the crazy thing is, like, so I've been with my girlfriend since high school, right? But
that's what's up, bro.
even, like, with that, it was times where, like, she was always by my side, but in a way, it still kind of felt alone because we were kind of living, like, I don't want to say two separate lives, but
I get it.
yeah,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it took going through that to realize, like, I had to, like, pick up other things to get back to who I am. So.
Wow. So that right there, what you just shared, kind of led into your barber noticing things within you. He sold you his camera. Is that right?
Right.
And you started to just kind of playing around with it. At what point, and that was 2013, 2014?
Correct.
At what point did you feel like you started to take it serious? Was it immediate? Now being competitive is one thing, but I mean, like, taking it serious as in, like, oh, I think I can start commissioning people and charging people for this.
So it might have been the end of 2013. I got asked to do my first paid gig, and shout out to the Youre Deltas. They asked me to shoot their fashion show.
Hey,
and
how'd that come about? You had just started and you get something like that?
Well, it's kind of crazy because it was like
he linked in, he know people.
So the thing is, like, they asked me, and I'm like, I don't know what to charge, right? So, but she wanted a price on the spot, so I lowballed myself. I said like $50, $75, something like that, right? I don't know. So I said that instantly, like, I'm nervous. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, these have to be good. I can't mess up. Went the day of the shoot, it was really dark in there, so I'm panicking. I'm like, oh man, these pictures aren't coming out good. And I forgot I had, like, this, it's called a speed light you put on top of your camera. And I put it on there, and pictures start coming out really good. Well, I say that in that time period. Now I look at it, I'm like, not really that good. But back then it was good for me.
Right.
So did that, and that's when I realized, like, okay, people liking my photos, I'm liking them, let's go. And that was the very first time where I felt like accomplished in photography. Now, there's been other moments after that where I gained more confidence. Like, for instance, one of my best friends, Mallory, like a model I shoot with consistently, like our very first shoot, man, I thought I was like on top of the world after we did those photos, and it came out really good. And she kind of like opened my eye on like how to get more creative, how to think outside of the box, because that was something I wasn't doing at first. It was always kind of like just
simple shots,
point and shoot, right? But she kind of opened my eyes and like, hey, try taking it this way, or try doing this. And at first I had reservations, like, well, I don't know how to do that. She was like, well, just try it. And that's when, like, it just opened up a whole new door for me.
Okay, so the 501PlusCori.
Mm-hmm.
How'd you come up with that name? Did you come up with that, or what's the meaning behind the name, man?
So it's really, I guess it's more simple than what it might sound. I don't know. It might sound simple to you, might not. But people from California, they're very prideful of being from wherever they are in California. So I always looked at myself as like born and raised in California, but I kind of, over the years, like, I kind of like looked at Arkansas as home too. It took me a while to feel that way, but once I got to college, I started appreciating things about Arkansas. So I kind of, I guess the play on the name is really more of like, hey, I'm me, right? But I'm showing like appreciation for 501 Arkansas. So once I came up with that name, it just kind of stuck. And even if I want to change it, people probably still would call me that.
So people actually call you 501 Corey.
Yeah.
So if I would have walked in here today, because again, this is my first time meeting you. If I would have walked in here today and said 501 Corey, you would have been on that. Like that wouldn't have sounded weird.
In a way, a little bit, because people that's how strangers recognize me in public. But my friends, they don't call me that.
It's like walking up to Soulja Boy and saying, "Soulja Boy, tell him." I'm not saying Soulja Boy, tell him, bro. Like I'm gonna call you Soulja Boy. Like you know what I mean? So that I didn't know if it was a thing like that.
No. It's not. That's not like what I go by, but it's really just more of a branding thing. Like strangers see me and they're like 501 Corey. Now some people would take the 501 off and say Corey, but it's more like the younger crowd. They call everybody by their social media name. So
okay, and just to make sure we getting the best audio and the best visionary or the best visuals for the audience who's listening or who's going to be watching this episode. Feel free, bro. I know this is your first time on the podcast.
Yeah,
first time. Mm-hmm. Feel free, bro, to kind of tap the mic like that and kind of lean it in towards you.
Okay, I got you.
Yep. I know we're making eye contact. Feel free to make eye contact. Yeah, you trying to heck. There you go.
Okay.
Yep. So I want you to feel free to kind of talk. I don't want you to be uncomfortable in any type of way.
I got
it's your best audio. I want to make sure they can hear you. All right, bro. So you get into photography. You realize yo, I'm good at this. You start getting likes. You start getting attention. You started out with the Delta. What are they called?
The sorority deltas.
The sororities. Okay, the sorority deltas in Little Rock. To be specific. I don't know if this question will make sense. So help me out here. Mm-hmm. Is there at some point a moment when you realize you have an identity? You know what I mean? Like something that kind of separates you from everybody else. And I'm definitely using this to segue into another topic.
Man, that is a good question. For the longest, I don't want to say I struggled with identifying what I was in photography, in the scene, but I kind of consider myself like a chameleon. I felt like I could do everything, right? And then I realized, no, I do have a style. I like popping colors. I like edginess. But at the same time, I can dabble into softer images, right? And I think once I stopped trying to compare myself to people I looked up to in the photography game early on, that's when my style started to really flourish.
Now, when you say comparing yourself, are you talking about famous photographers? Are you talking about local photographers? What are we talking about?
Oh, we're just talking local. This gonna sound bad, but I don't really know a lot of famous photographers, right? Because in my eyes, if your work is good, I don't care if 5 people know you or a million people.
Facts.
If I like your work, I just like your work.
I can appreciate that one big time.
For sure.
So, how would you categorize? How would you describe your imagery, your identification? What separates you, your photography, from the next person? What makes you you? When somebody looks at your work, how do they know that this is something from 501 Corey?
From a local standpoint, or just universal?
Both.
Okay, local. I think, and this humble as I can be, I think color-wise, I don't think nobody touched me with colors. Okay. Out here, right? Okay. Now, from a bigger standpoint, I think when you look at my photos, I want to convey an emotion, right? Whether it be, I used to do concept pieces of fear, abuse, or I would go on the other spectrum of trying to promote love. And it wouldn't necessarily the caption would be on the photo saying love each other, this and that. But when you look at a photo, the very first thing you feel, that's what's important to me. And there's no wrong answer in that. But as long as I can invoke something that you're able to share and just convey with me, then I did my job.
How do you do that? How do you do that? Because if somebody wanted to say how do you tell your mom? How do you show your mom I love you? I tell my mom I love you. I give her a hug. Uh-huh. How do you show your girl I love you? In some cases you tell your girl you love her, but in other cases maybe you buy her a ring, take her out to dinner, or you buy her a necklace or something, take her out to dinner. Right. That's how you showing that I love you. But when you're talking about photography,
Yeah.
not counting the captions and what you're saying underneath it,
Right.
how do you convey that? Is that harder said than done?
I think it's really a lot of it's based on the talent that's in front of your camera. So, I think a lot of times it might feel weird, but like I try to paint pictures of like what I'm going for. So let's just say I'm shooting, I don't know, like a candy store theme to shoot, right? I'm gonna like give the model words that kind of resemble playful. So
Okay.
we're gonna do motions of like, of course, laughter. I don't know, opening candy, just freeful, right? And that's where like I come in, right? I have to capture those angles that convey that. Now, once I take those images, it's kind of out of my control what you feel from that, right? But more times than not, with the lighting setups, like if it's very bright and it's very colorful, if I set up the lights to get the colors right, that kind of plays a part into like the final result. But if I'm shooting a lot of colors and it's really dark and I'm supposed to have like this candy shop, then it might be mistaken for like, I don't know, a dance club or a nightclub. So having pre-production before you do shoots, which it took me a long time to learn, it really helps like convey whatever you're trying to convey.
Yo, that's so funny you say that, right? Because when I say we're gonna segue into something, I really meant that. When I say is it harder said than done to kind of convey that or successfully convey that? I mean, like, so you take somebody like myself. I'm not a photographer, right? I'm an artist, but I'm not a photographer. That's not my lane. And how do I say this in a nice way? I see a lot of pictures and a lot of photography and a lot of quote unquote what people call art, where they just want to get naked in front of the camera, or they want to just do still shots and they call it art, or they'll put something out and then they'll put this caption that has something completely that has nothing to do with the picture. And I'm like, yo, this is I'm saying nobody's name when I say this. It's like, yo, your picture looks like the last 30 pictures I saw of people who just, I'm not going to say, people who just want to get on camera and just get naked. If you want to get on camera and take pictures of you naked, then call it for what it is. But people, I think there's a difference between just want to be naked and taking, like, people take pictures of you naked and being naked and it being like having artistic purpose to it. As a photographer, I'm just a consumer. As a photographer, is there a difference?
I think it is. Let me tell you why. Because as a photographer, well, first you gotta identify: is this a hobby for me, or is this a business, right? So on the business standpoint, you got clients. More than likely, it's gonna be women, right? You got women lining up wanting those photos for whatever reason. Who am I to say not to take that photo, right? Okay. Now, me as a viewer, I don't particularly would gravitate towards that as like my favorite type of photography. Now, there's tasteful ways of doing it, and it just be blunt. There's ways where it's just trash, right? Like, and I'm not trying to body shame. I'm not calling the women in the photo trash,
right?
But it is a little. You can tell when it's thought put into those type of concepts, and I won't even base it on the volume of which some photographers shoot that, but that could be used as a branding method too. So if let's just take me, right? If I only did nude shoots for women, then of course I'm gonna get a lot of perception of, oh, he might be a creep, or oh, this and that. And don't get me wrong, as we saw recently, there is that out there, right? But at the same time, if that person conducts good business, respectful, and puts a little thought into it, I think it could be received a lot better than actually just, oh, he just shoot naked women.
Do you see that very often, where you see a lot of thought behind it?
No, I don't.
Tell me what you see. I think you need to take a sip, my guy.
You making me troll.
Listen.
Right.
I think what he's about to do this thing where people try to be super polite. I'm a super polite person, but I don't have people to come on the Ruling Class podcast. For my avid listeners out there, you all know the reason or the meaning behind Ruling Class. So when I have somebody come on the podcast, I like for them to be genuine and honest. So when I say, we're not saying anybody's names, we're not calling out any brands, we're just saying in general, when you see a lot of nude pictures, let me go ahead and set the stage for you first.
Okay.
I see a lot of pictures, as I said before, where I don't get it. Now there is the perspective of, or the element that, well, maybe Demetrius or Didi, the artistic point that they were trying to convey, you just don't quite get it. But I see some pictures where it's like, oh no, you just wanted to be naked and you took a sheet and put it over you.
Definitely.
There's no creativity in it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no risk taking, because for some people, I feel like getting naked isn't really risk taking for some people. It's easy for some people to just be naked.
Right.
So that's how I feel. I see a lot of stuff and it's like, I just feel like they're making, because you can see some naked, some new. I should probably say stop. I should probably stop saying naked. You can see some nude pics where you can clearly see, oh, nude is the last thing I think of when I look at that picture.
Right.
But then you see some and you're like, that's all I see. So that's my perspective as the consumer, as the photographer. What do you see when you see most of the nude pictures that you see?
I don't know. Maybe. Okay, it's just be blunt, right?
Mm-hmm.
Early on, I was, man, it's trash. Like why is this right? Like why do they keep only shooting this? Why is there no thought behind this, right? And then I started thinking more of like, well, everyone in this game isn't trying to be a creative. They're creating, but they're not trying to be creative.
Okay.
So you got people.
Ooh, I didn't think about that.
So you have people who are volume shooters, where they book a studio. They're gonna do a model call, or they might do a paid packaging call, right? Hey, come get 1 hour, 5 edits, this type of theme, right? You go to Dallas, you could probably get about 10 girls to do that and block it up, 30-minute sessions, hour sessions. You book a studio, you make a quick bag, right? And
there are photographers that do stuff like that?
Yeah. Supply and demand, yeah.
Bro, listen, I may sound like so naive to a lot of people out there, but see, my perspective is, I'm like, well, no, because I'm like this with podcasting or when I paint. I'm like, oh no, everything that I do, I put my time and my thought and my creativity behind it. Like, it's not like, it's like, I love Gucci's music, but it's not like putting out a mix, or Future. It's not like putting out a mixtape every other month, but it's like a J. Cole. It's like I'm gonna put out an album every 3 years. Like you all are gonna, or I might put out a Dreamville album every other year. Like you all are gonna savor, my brand, my product.
In a perfect world, I would love that. Like I would love everyone to put thought into what they got going on, but
that's not reality.
That's not reality. But I've learned to appreciate, because that's what
you learn to appreciate what?
I learned to appreciate that it exists, because that's what separates me and others like me from those type of photographers.
So what happens when Corey has a female model who reaches out and says, hey, I have this idea.
Hold on, model or client?
What's the difference?
Okay.
Talk to me.
So model for me, or I think it should be for everyone, is someone inspiring to whether it be runway, print, or commercial, like someone inspiring to actually be in that industry. Like model, like be the model of a brand or a freelance model, someone who's getting paid someone with the goal to get paid to shoot, to be shot, right?
Okay.
Now a client, that could be any woman, man, whoever, who just wants to pay for a shoot and doesn't have like the interest of like getting better with posing or networking after the shoot. They just want to take pictures. And I think a lot of times people confuse the two, because girls or women, they like to get you know, dressed up cute, and they might do 3 shoots in a month or whatnot, and they'll call themselves a model, but it's like
maybe it's levels to this.
But even that, like, you could start at aspiring model, right? Like, I would appreciate that more if you said, "Oh, I'm an aspiring model," because you could be at the very bottom or you could be at the top, right? But are you working on your craft? Are you working on your posing? Are you doing the skincare? Are you, I don't know, on YouTube? Are you networking, right? And I think it's a lot of that out here. And I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but it is frustrating. Like, but what was you saying? My bad.
He's like, every other person calls themselves a model. All right. Well, that's never happened to me on my podcast before. That's so funny. All right, so you just broke down what a client and a model is. Corey, is it possible to be both? Or, let me ask this, because no, I guess I answered my own question. You said a client is somebody who doesn't aspire to be more than just somebody who's paying for their photo shoot. Right. Is that right? So let me ask you this. Is it possible to be neither one of those? Because what if you are somebody who's aspiring to be more than just somebody who pays for a shoot, but you don't do it as consistent as somebody you would consider as a model? Does that make sense?
I think I might be a tad confused, but
break down to me again. So model means somebody who is
model is someone who's aspiring to eventually get paid for their services.
Boom. And a client is somebody who's just paying
for per services.
What if somebody isn't aspiring to be something greater, but they're only, I guess you can only be one of the other. I'm trying to make sense, because originally the question made sense in my head. You're paying for your shoots, but you don't do it consistently enough, but you're aspiring to be more.
You could aspire for your photo shoots to be better.
Okay,
but you're not
trying to network and trying to go big. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happens when Corey gets back to this question? What happens when Corey gets approached by a model, more than likely a female model, that says, "Hey, I have this idea, and it just happened to be this nude idea," and you feel like, oh, no disrespect, but you just want to be naked on camera. What happens? Are you approached with many ideas like that? And if you are, what's Corey's approach to that, being that doesn't fall under what you identify as a photographer?
So, answer the first question. I really don't get those type of requests. I think because in that area that we live in, it's so many other photographers who do that, so they'll probably go to them first. Okay. Now, if someone did approach me with that, I would probably dig into more as to, like, you know, is there a meaning behind it, or like, is there like any inspiration photos that you might have seen that kind of can paint more of a picture of like how you want this shot? And if it happens to be something where we talked about earlier, where it looks more of like conceptual based, or maybe the lighting paints the mood of conveying that feeling that we talked about, then I'll be open to do that, right? But at the same time, I'm not going to make that a habit, because that's not how I want to. That's not the art that I necessarily want to put out.
I see. Have you ever had situations? I'm going to switch gears here a little bit. Have you ever had situations, Corey, where you've had someone either not pay, you've had someone try not to pay, or you've had someone not be happy with what it is that you're charging as a photographer?
Oh, often.
Really?
Yeah. People tell me all the time, "Oh, you're too..." Well, not so much now, but earlier, "Oh, you charge too much." Well, what should I charge? That's been my response. And then they give me a price. I'm like, okay, well.
Is all of this happening through social media? Does any of this happen face to face?
Yeah, face to face.
That is so awkward.
DMs, in person.
They tell you that you charge too much.
Yeah, they charge. I'm like, well, what do you expect me to charge? Like, you don't know what all this stuff costs. I mean, if you go to JCPenney's, no offense, JCPenney's, right, you're gonna get some basic portraits, right? you come to me or you go to Ray Visions or Q Photography or whoever, you're gonna get more of a experience. You're gonna get more of something that's tailored to you and not your simple house with snow in the background type of setup.
So for those of you, for those out there who's listening right now, as a photographer, how do you get your pricing? How do you judge what you're gonna price people? How do you come together with come to a conclusion on what you're gonna charge people?
So the funny thing I hear, like everyone kind of charge similar. Like
I heard that before.
Everyone kind of in the same network, ballpark, right? And then of course you got tiers, right? So you got amateur starters, then you got probably me and a couple other people, and then you got people who actually own brick and mortar studios and travel.
Okay, I was going to ask. So how do you consider yourself? How do you move up in rank? How do you know if you're an amateur? By the number of years, by the quality. How do you know if your quality is what it is? Because maybe what you think, other people don't think. The consumers may not think you're that good.
That's true. I probably think I'm better than a lot of. Well, I don't know.
I think you're better than a lot.
I think I'm better than what some people might think I am.
Okay.
I know I have my weaknesses, and I know sometimes some of my weaknesses are things that people want from me or want from a photographer.
Interesting.
But at the same time, I think when it comes to pricing and like trying to determine where you stand within, so you look at it from a statewide perspective of like, there's no way you can know all the photographers out here. And this kind of go back to like, it could be somebody with only 5 followers on Instagram or not a huge network, and it could be like the best photographer out here. I probably don't even know the best photographer out here, but that kind of go to another subject of, to me, there really is no best. But
it's all about preference.
All about preference. All about if you had a good day or not. All about consistency. All about a lot of things, right? Okay. But at the same time, it's kind of, for me, I feel like after every year, you should be trying to increase your price, whether it be $10, $15. Whether it be a big jump because you just got a studio, whether it be because of just inflation, anything, right? And I think it took me a while to learn that because I stayed at such a low price point for so long because I wasn't all the way satisfied with what I was giving people. But now I'm getting closer to that point to where I'm liking about 80% of the shoots I do from a personal perspective. And that's when I know, like, okay, it's time to level up. It's time to push the bar further.
Did COVID, as far as everything you was just saying, did COVID increase your confidence, your satisfaction? Did COVID increase your intel or your clientele, I should say? Like, how did COVID impact? I know I've had artists on the podcast. I've got more artists that's pending, they're coming on the podcast. How did I've never talked to a photographer? How did COVID impact photographers? Did it hurt you?
So I think COVID helped.
It helped you.
I think COVID helped all photographers, right? Whether you starting or on the biggest level. Well,
interesting.
Maybe not so much on the biggest level because a lot of those photographers work with larger brands that had way more restrictions, so they were kind of limited in like the type of bookings that they normally get. So if you just say you shoot for, I don't know, Ford Motors or anything like that, they weren't doing content at that time. So if you're not shooting your normal client, then you probably out of work, or you probably got to go find other clients who are willing to shoot during that time. But for me, man, COVID was a blessing and a curse because obviously, the health matters that were going on. It's scary, right?
Yep.
Terrifying. You got people coming into your house and you don't know. You masked up, you're taking all the precautions, but you just never know. But man, I think what happened with COVID is people had funds because they wasn't like going out. They had nothing to spend their money on. Couldn't go anywhere, so they just wanted something to do. And photographers, they didn't really stop shooting out here. So it was a span where like I had to shoot every day for like 2 months straight. Sometimes I was doing like 2 or 3 shoots a day. And when you do something for that, period of time, you're gonna learn new things. And
you did a shoot for every day for 2 months, bro?
Yeah.
And some days 2 or 3 shoots. Now we talking like, well, no shoots can be like 10-minute shoots. Like,
nah,
how is that even possible? Are you charging for every shoot?
No. Some of these shoots where, hey, I got this new light set up. Let's do this. They like, come over, wear whatever you want. Let me practice on you, right? Then I had my client shoots where, of course, those were paid. Kind of already knew the direction. And then sometimes I would just wake up and be like, man, I just want to do something. Right. And, of course, like I said, sanitize, wipe everything down. Got my
COVID made things weird.
My thermostat meter, like all of that, right? Go through the precautions, but at the same time, I to be honest, I didn't want to stop creating.
So that kind of just reminded me of something, or made me think to ask you something. Mm-hmm. So as it relates to shooting, and for some reason, the way you just described the way things were during COVID or during the pandemic, which kind of went still, but it kind of reminded me of something. When you shoot women, and we were just talking about nude pictures and everything like that.
Right.
That seems to be like a fine line, man. Like, do you have your girlfriend present? Do you have somebody's present? Do you have people to sign a contract or a consent form before you have these people come into your privacy, your home, to take their clothes off? Or in a lot of cases, with majority of your shoots, or if not all of your shoots, they don't take their clothes off. Mm-hmm. But do you ever think about things like that?
I think about it all the time. There's a lot of things that go into those type of shoots, even though I don't do those type of shoots that often. But just even on a general scale of things, right? If a young lady comes in, she has multiple outfit changes, one of the first questions she's gonna ask is, hey, do you have a changing station, right? And I do provide that. And when it comes to that taking place, I want to make everyone feel as comfortable as possible. So, I show them where it is. Hey, if you need anything, let me know. I'm getting away. Like, I don't want to be around you when you're doing that, because I want you to feel as comfortable as possible. And when it comes to like just shoots in general, I would love to have my girlfriend here all the time, but unfortunately work kind of takes her away from that. So when it is shoots where any shoots with women, I always want them to bring someone, whether it be. And
do you go out your way to tell them, like, hey, feel free to bring someone, or hey, I would like
it
if you
definitely.
Bring
well,
how do you word that?
So this is what I do, right? If it's more of a risky shoot, I don't want to assume they have a boyfriend, but I suggest bringing a male, not even a woman, but bring a male.
Why?
Whether it be your brother, your dad, one of your close friends, you're gonna feel. I feel like most women would feel more safe with having that type of presence around them for protection. Now, if you can't bring that, of course, bring whether it be your mother, your best friend, bring 2 of your friends, right? Now, I'm not saying I want a gang of people in my house,
right?
But at the same time, I don't want you to show up and feel like, I wish I could have brought somebody, right? I'm never gonna stop anyone from bringing someone. And now, just to be honest, I don't always make that clear, but I always leave it open to it. If they want to do that, do it. And having a consent form, that is something like I'm trying to have on my new website whenever it's finished. Like, I don't want any clients under a certain age unattended.
What's the age limit for you?
It'll be 18.
18. No 17-year-olds can come do a photo shoot with 501PlusCori.
Without an adult
present.
Yep.
Now, it's interesting that you said that, because with the podcast thing, regardless of age or who it is I'm talking to, I have this thing. I have people sign a consent form, which I have to get with you about, but I know it's not a big deal with you. But
yeah,
I have people to sign a consent form, and there's a lot of, like, mine is probably a page and a half long.
Yeah, I'm gonna need that.
Like, yeah, man, I'm gonna send that to you. Like, There's a lot of information in there, and it includes COVID. I let people know how I'm not going to be wearing a mask, but if they're comfortable, you know, being that we're in different times right now, I will wear a mask, which I've had to do for only one podcast, I believe, so far.
Mm-hmm. How was it though? Like trying to talk.
It was different. It was different, and on top of that, it was two other people. So it was the first time I had 3 people total, including myself, on the podcast. So that was different because we had like maybe a wider camera view. My voice sounded a little bit muffled, and then when it came to the editing process, I had to like pull the mask down so I can see our lips moving,
right? So
I can know where to put the voicing and the voiceovers and all of that. But that's podcast, so that's other stuff. But
gotcha.
It was different. So that's crazy because I had never thought about that. I'm like, yeah, there is like I guess an age limit when it comes to like podcasting. I guess, you know, photography and all of that. I never thought about that. Inspirations, Corey. Inspirations when it comes to no matter what it is you do, whether you're LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, God rest his soul, whether you David Beckham, whether you Serena Williams, you know, and I'm just naming sports players, but whether you no matter what it is you do, the Neptunes, no matter what it is that you do, everybody needs some sort of inspiration to kind of like recreate themselves or reinvent themselves or keep themselves going. You know, J. Cole is my favorite artist of all time. I'm the biggest fan of J. Cole's music.
I don't know.
I'm not a fan of him as a human, but his music. Nobody's competing with me. Corey, leave that alone, bro.
I think my brother might have something to say.
Okay, we'll see about that. So, even somebody like a J. Cole, his most recent project, that being the off season, you hear inspiration. J. Cole don't use auto-tune. He took the auto-tune, but see what J. Cole did was he took auto-tune and put that consciousness over that auto-tune. He took the flow of some of these newer rappers like a little Uzi Vert. What's my man's name that passed away?
What, this year, last year?
Last year.
DMX?
Lucid Dreams.
Triplet? No,
not X. Our age is showing right now.
Yeah,
we gonna figure this out. Shoot, what's his name?
Juice WRLD.
Juice WRLD.
Yeah, okay.
Ain't that so bad? Juice WRLD. God rest his soul. Juice WRLD. He took like some flows of a Juice WRLD, XXXTentacion, a little Uzi Vert, even a little bit of a Young Thug, and he took that flow, that cadence a little bit because he know that's what attracts the younger crowd, and he put that consciousness over. He's not going to talk about drugs and you know, over sexualizing women, and he's not going to do these things. He's going to give you that real, that quote unquote real rap. So he took that what they do, what a lot of people call mumble rap, but he took away to have that to inspire him to kind of draw in a new crowd. What is it that inspires Corey to do his photography, to continue to get better, to try new things? Is there something out there? Is it music? Is it other photographers? Is it your family? Is it your girlfriend? What is it that inspires you?
Man, it's a lot of inspiration out here. It's a lot of photographers out here that I personally enjoy their work. So man, just waking up seeing, you know, them post whatever on Instagram, whatever, like that inspires me. I guess something that's a little more personal. Definitely my girlfriend. Like, she was someone that always pushed me to be better, right? And she has an eye too. And it took a while for me to it took a while for her to realize or figure out like how she could fit into what I do. And this is where like COVID was a good thing because it made us like sit down and like figure out these things, right? So this is kind of when she got heavily involved in like my creative sets.
Wow.
So whether it be something the client wanted, whether it be something we just came up with together, whether it be like, hey, I want to do this. Okay, set it up and I'll shoot it. And that really kind of like made my knowledge of like how things could be styled and colors go next level. And even before that, I learned the importance of working with a stylist. And shout out Donisha and McCollin. They definitely like put together mood boards that were like top notch. It kind of showed like, hey, lighting and composition of a photo is good, but the styling is just as important because.
And before you didn't realize that as much.
I didn't really give it that much
thought.
Like it was always like just wear whatever and we take the shot. But it was like, no, we need the right type of clothing. We need the right accessories and makeup too, right? Working with great makeup artists will make you appreciate them way more, especially when you get a bad makeup artist. There's no knock, but some makeup artists just, they need work, right? So recognizing what good makeup is, what a good stylist is, and even outside of photography, like just finding people who are passionate on what they do, and you can see like
Facts.
them wanting to get great,
Facts.
like yourself.
Facts.
You consistent.
Facts. I felt that when you said that, bro. I felt that when you said that because I understand it because it's a grind. But go ahead and continue.
Yeah, just seeing people elevate, like grow, like not afraid to make a mistake and show like, hey, I made a mistake. This is what I learned. Or even if they don't want to put it out there, you can still kind of pick up on it. And then I guess a lot of my drive was inspired from R.I.P. Kobe. Like Kobe was like my number one role model. I was heartbroken, when the tragedy happened.
That shook the world.
But
God rest his soul and everybody that was involved in that accident.
But Mamba mentality, it really, man, it's so universal. Like it's applied to anything. Like that's kind of like a lot of reasons why.
That's funny because I never even really thought about that.
Yeah, like you wake up, you don't want to shoot, but you like, no, I gotta go do this, right?
Dang.
Like I'm not finna cancel on my client. I'm not finna half-ass the shoot. I'm not like we just not finna do that. We finna go hard because when we can't do it no more, you're gonna regret that.
Right.
So, yeah, I got inspiration all around me, and I'm just always thankful for it.
Dang, man. That's crazy. That's crazy right there. The last thing I want to ask you, man, because I know you got to shoot after this. The last thing I want to ask you is, as it relates to photography, for anybody who maybe getting like maybe slumps, or they get in a space where they feel like, man, I've been working for a year, nobody's noticing me, nobody's listening to me, nobody's recognizes my growth. I don't know. I'm feeling like giving up. What advice does Corey have for anybody out there who's in a space, whether it be photography, whether it be basketball, whether it be any type of sport, whether it be any type of, creative art, man? Like, what kind of advice do you have for those out there, especially photography, being that that's the field that you're in, who feel like they're not getting enough attention or recognition? What advice do you have for them?
Man, I would say this. It takes years to make it overnight. And whatever that means to you is, up to your own interpretation, right? But the way I see it is levels to like where you stand in whatever you're trying to do, right? So first, I was a natural light photographer. Learned somewhat of that, still was shaky. Then I had to learn how to shoot in manual mode. Gave me more flexibility on my camera. Then I had to learn, hey, I want to do studio shoots. So I had to learn studio lighting. Then I realized, hey, you start adding artificial light, you got to learn how to edit better. So had to learn that. Then you got to start networking with other people who can improve your shoots, elevate your shoots. So that's when you start introducing your stylists, your makeup artists. So you can't learn it all at one time. But if you lock into one thing and you spend hours on that, and I mean hours, weeks, months, it'll make that process way more, you'll appreciate it a lot more, definitely. So just keep going, whether you starting tomorrow, today, you started last week, it's going to be a grind. And some people pick up on it faster than others. It took me a long time to figure out a lot of things. And there's way more education now, whether it be on YouTube University. A lot of times you got to sort through, what the BS is on there and get to the nitty gritty of what you need. But I promise it's out there.
Facts. And would you say that taking advice or constructive criticism from your consumers or from other people around you is important? Would you say ignore that? How important is that?
Is
it balance or what?
It's just me personally. I'm always a believer. Have some real women around you.
Real women. Why specifically real women around you?
Because in my experience, I think a lot of guys. Well, this is I guess more for guys. We give for women too, but guys are quick to say, "Oh, bro, that's crazy. Oh, bro, that's hard. This and that, right?"
To kind of just get it over with.
Like. But are they really looking into like, well, I don't like this about it. Like, is there a way you can change this? Or, hey, why was her hair like this? Or you should have did this. Or, well, your client said she wanted this, but you gave them this, and you can't. It might be hard to kind of like accept that, but sometimes you just gotta shut your mouth and just listen. Like, listen.
And that's hard for a lot of us to do.
Man, it's sometimes it's still hard for me. Whether it's like,
is it because you don't know if they're really being honest, or they're just being mean, or they're just being like too judgmental? What is it that goes into that?
I think because we just, as artists, we just sensitive about our work.
There it is.
So,
okay.
And then kind of go back to the identity. Once you think you know what you are as an artist and where you stand, sometimes when you start to branch out of that, it's like, well, that's not me.
Right.
It's like, well, it can't.
That's not what separates me from everybody else.
Yeah, but it's like, well, it can be a part of you. You don't always have to.
How do you make that decision? That's such a fine line.
It
Corey.
is.
Man, there's gonna be photographers, bro. There's gonna be artists, bro. That's gonna be watching this podcast, man, a year from now, and they're gonna see this, and they're gonna like, no, wait, Demetrius, Didi, why didn't you ask him what did he mean by that? I need to understand that. Explain to them what they mean. How do you walk that fine line, bro?
Okay, I say, if you have an idea or you approach with something, and you on the fence about it. Like you see some good and some bad, I say just do it. But don't put it out to the world. Just do it. Well, if you have the opportunity to hold on to things before you release it, just do it. And it's kind of go with like, even when I'm like editing pictures, like I'll edit something, I'll look at it for 2 days straight. And if I feel good about it still, then I know I did it right.
Okay.
So same thing with, I guess, trying to build a brand or brand identity. Like get you some, like I said, some real women around you. I mean, it could be some guys too, but just make sure, like,
preferably you prefer women.
I prefer women
because they keep it real with you.
They gonna keep it real. Get you some of that, and
black women.
Get
you some real black women around you. You get you some real black women around you. Some sisters. Get you some sisters around you. He's trying to be polite. Get you some sisters around you.
No, I can't even say that. Cause I got a white friend too.
Okay. Yeah. I got a couple of white friends.
Yeah.
And they honest, but
but for the most part, yeah. Right.
Okay. Bad.
Right. So yeah, get that, and not necessarily compare it to like a lot of your old work, but see if you line a photo up from your last 3 years,
and if there's
improvement, or even if it not necessarily improvement in quality, but if you're trying to convey like that same message or that same feeling, but you see like, oh, you did it in another, I guess a twist of like what the first one was, then you got it right.
But if not, you got to be real with yourself.
You got to be, yeah.
You think a lot of people aren't real with themselves?
I think a lot of people have low expectations of themselves. I think a lot of people don't value trying to get better every day. I think
because it kind of hurts them, like
it
kind of hurts their feelings. You know what I mean, like
that, and also
to push themselves.
Also, if people are consistently booking you, and no matter what field that you do, you start thinking like, oh, I'm not doing anything wrong. Like I got everything I need, and it's
if
like,
it's not broke, don't fix it.
Exactly, and it's like, nah, it's always broke for me. I'm always trying to.
Ooh, I like that. It's always broke for me. I like that, bro, because you're always striving to be better.
Right.
That's crazy. At the end of every episode, Corey, we give a shout out to a movie, a song, an album, or a book. A movie, song, album, or a book. But for you, a movie, song, album, book, or an artist. Give a shout out.
Man, I want to do an artist. Can I do like 2 or 3 artists though?
Talk to me. You got to give a shout out and tell the people why they should go check these artists out.
All right, shout out first and foremost, shout out to my girlfriend, Jakara Stewart. You can check her out on Instagram as Brown by Design. It's spelled BRWNX. I think it's DSNG. I don't know. I'm gonna look it up. He'll put it in the comments.
Yeah, I'll put it in the
Check her out. Definitely set designs for birthdays, whether it be events, anything. Like, she definitely she definitely elevated me. Love her to death. Check her out. Secondly, gotta go with my brother, Bruce Davis of 22nd Element.
Oh man, I don't know those people, but I've seen them on Instagram.
Yeah,
bro, they got some dope work, bro.
Crazy, man. We
dope
have
work. It reminds me of your stuff. Dope work. The colors be popping. The creativity be. I know this ain't even supposed to be my part, right? But the colors be popping. The creativity be like the message behind it, the purpose behind it is popping. I've DM'd them before through my motivational page, not even my podcast page. Like this stuff is dope, bro. Continue.
Everything he just said, right?
Man, what?
And the
I don't
thing
exaggerate.
is, like, we started together, kind of. Like, he started making clothes around the same time when I started photography, and we just kind of grew together.
It's a whole vibe.
Definitely check him out. And man, I want to shout out so many models I work with, but I know we don't got time for all that. So shout out.
You don't shout out her right here. Like, I'm gonna put her in this clip. I'm gonna tag her. Like,
shout out
her out right
Mallory
here,
Jackson,
man, her words
Miriam,
fire, bro.
Haley,
y'all like peanut butter and jelly, bro.
Cabria, Brittany, Ollie. Like, I appreciate all my models. I call them my models. I appreciate all the models that I work with. Man, without them, it would have been definitely harder to get to where I am now. So, and my brother Sean Fresh too. He does music. Man, he's a jack of all trades, graphic design, everything. So, shout out all of them.
That's dope. Well, Corey, man, I appreciate you, bro. We definitely gotta do a part 2 to this, man. Until next time, we out. Peace.
Peace.